Hi, Councilman LeBron.
Hello.
How are you?
Good afternoon, Councilman.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
All right.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. We're going to be live in 30 seconds.
So is it just the D's?
Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. I'm calling to order this Operations Management Budget and Government Accountability Committee meeting to order of Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. And as I see my council colleagues on the screen, I'm just going to call their name. Councilwoman Marilyn Rossetti, Councilman John Gale, Councilman Nick LeBron, Councilwoman Shirley Sturgeon, Councilman James Sanchez, Councilwoman Tiana Hercules, my co-chair for this committee, Majority Leader Clark. Also with us is our town clerk, Noel McGregor, and Eric Lusa from his office. So I want to welcome everyone. Through this evening's budget presentation, we're going to first hear from the Office of the City Treasurer, followed by the Office of the Town and City Clerk and the Office of the Register of Voters. So without further ado, Mr. Treasurer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, council persons. It's so nice to see you all. Happy this evening to present the 2023 budget for the Office of the City Treasurer. Joining me tonight is Deputy City Treasurer Carmen Sierra. Shay, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, just a moment, please. Okay, all set, Treasurer Cloud.
Very good. If you could flip to the next page, that'd be great to start us off. Again, good evening, everyone, and also good evening to all of the residents of Hartford who have taken the opportunity to listen in this evening. On this page, what we talk about is the mission of the Office of the City Treasurer. For those who are not aware, the Office of the Treasurer is an independently elected office, and our primary focus underneath the charter of the city is to be the custodian of all city funds. Given that, our mission is to prudently invest all of the cash and debt of the city of Hartford. We, in that regard, protect those assets by investing them securely in various short-term investment accounts through various banks throughout the state. And in doing so, we're always looking for the highest yield that can be provided. So we actually go out and get quotes from all banks to make sure we're getting the highest return on the cash. And what I mean by all that is that when this budget, every year when the budget is passed, we don't spend those dollars on day one. And so as those monies are drawn down, we of course pay our debt obligations or our expenses, but the cash that's left is the short-term cash that we manage. And in doing so, we're obviously trying to create an excess yield on that idle cash that therefore generates additional income for the city of Hartford. If we can flip over to the next page. On this slide, I have provided an org chart of the Office of the Treasurer. What this is showing is those departments within my office that are funded solely by the general fund. So what you see here is myself, the Assistant City Treasurer, Carmen Sierra, and then we, in our three divisions inside the office, the Custody of Funds Unit, the Executive Office, which consists of myself, Assistant Treasurer Sierra, and Shay Eve, my Executive Assistant. And then on the investment side, the Principal Administrative Analyst position is a charter required position. And inside Custody of Funds, we have 5 different individuals that work for us, and they perform that previously mentioned responsibility around cash management, as well as the payment of all city obligations. If you would, Shay, can you turn to the next page? New this year, and thank you, Madam President, for asking for this across the city. We were asked by the Council President to give the residency composition of all of the employees within the Office of the City Treasurer. I'm pleased to announce that just inside of the general funded City of Hartford portion of the Treasurer's Office, we have 3 City of Hartford residents and 6 non-Hartford residents. Broken down by race and ethnicity, we have 2 Hispanic Latinx employees, 1 African American, 4 from the West Indies, 1 Caucasian or white, and 1 Asian. And in my office, there are 7 females and 2 males.
Woman in control.
Okay. Treasurer, Shay, please flip the page. So on this slide breaks down the responsibilities of the treasurer, and I'll walk you through those. We are responsible for the administration of all pension benefits. We administer the city's deferred compensation program. We invest and disperse the city's trust funds. We manage all the city cash and conduct all banking relationships. We invest the assets of the city's pension fund, and we also serve as the co-issuer of all city bonds. Next page, please. This year, the recommended general fund budget of the Treasurer's Office is $553,375. This budget reflects an increase of approximately $88,059. That increase is due principally to the increase of costs for banking services and salary increases relative to union contracts. Another area of focus or a highlight for us in this year's budget is that we continue to plan to work with the administration to meet our overall city budget goals while continuing to prudently invest the city's operating funds and manage its trust funds and retirement assets. I would note we tend to put this in here because of legal mandates. We have to maintain a current level of staffing to fulfill the work and obligations of this office. And what I mean by that is many years ago, we had an internal audit that made it clear that in our office, because we handle cash, we can't have the same person who may receive cash then count the cash and then have the same person deposit the cash. So right there, that requires 3 people. And as I showed you earlier, we have 5 individuals in our office. And so making sure that we have a distribution of duties protects us from any chance of fraud or mishandling of city cash, checks, or any other obligations. If we could flip to the next page. Here, we just broke out for you what that percentage change to the budget is. You can flip again, Shay. And on this slide, we broke it down by the aforementioned 3 distinct divisions within the Office of the City Treasurer, showing you in a pie chart what that represents. Next page, please. On the following pages, I'd like to provide a summary of some of our accomplishments. We have, several years ago, we converted all of the defined contribution plans under a single platform. When we did that, we were able to reduce costs and improve the governance, as well as enhance the investment options for all people who participated in the defined contribution plan. Simply said, in the prior administrations at the board level, they had multiple plan administrators. By consolidating it under VOIA, we saved on average 80 basis points on fees. So we saved all of those participants a significant amount of money. And I would note that every year, given those cost savings, we pass those cost savings back to the participants of the plan and put it right back into their accounts. So that was a very strategic and lengthy process, but it's been now up and running for 2 years, and we have fine-tuned it to the point where we think it's running much more efficiently and certainly with more enhanced options as a result of it. Speaking of enhancements, one of the things that we've spent a lot of time on recently is working on online access to our office. That includes putting up our pension fund numbers. That includes putting up the valuation reports. That includes putting up our monthly minutes from all of our pension and OPEB committee meetings. That's also a place where we're putting more information related to advice and around investments by not only our VOIA, but also our third-party defined contribution plan consultant, hoping that what we're doing in doing that is continuing to help enhance the education and level of information that participants get around how to have a safer retirement. One of the things I'm quite proud of last year was that since 2021, we have been working with the city, in particular Department of DPW, to enhance our city parks, and we've distributed nearly $2,249 million through the Hartford Parks Trust Fund to enhance our parks and beautify them across the city. If we could flip the page, please. Another exciting thing that this office was fully engaged in was during the process of getting Dillon Stadium completed, there was a holdup relative to the developers receiving the final financial dollars from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. And so the administration approached my office, and because Dillon Stadium is a park, we had to go back all the way to the will and trust of the Cole family trust and determined that it was a park. And as a result, we were able to provide a bridge financing to allow for Dillon Stadium to be completed, and we were subsequently reimbursed when the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving provided their capital. One of the other things that we've been able to do is create seminars in connection with some of our local banks to provide city residents access to financial literacy information. We've also increased our technology to make sure that we are providing secure and prompt payment of all of our distributions, both employee paychecks and all of our payments out to vendors. I mentioned this a little bit before, but just last year, we have been working closely with Human Resources, and you may see it in the monthly HR Beat employee newsletter. We're including financial literacy and financial related, investment related material. And we hope that city employees are getting an opportunity to read that. So again, that they are more informed about how to invest and focus on their long-term goals relative to retirement. See if you could change that slide, please. Some of our initiatives that we're focused on is, as bad as inflation is right now. In fact, inflation report numbers came out this morning. It's up 8.3%, which is probably the highest we've seen in almost 40 years. But the upside of the Fed increasing interest rates is that we get a higher interest rate relative to our short-term investments. That's just happening now, so I don't really have a year-end number, but the point there is that we'll be able to generate more interest income on our short-term cash. We continue to look at opportunities to invest locally through our economically targeted investment. To date, we have not been able to identify anything that we can do relative to our ETI program, but it still is available at close to $4 million that we will continue to pursue opportunities if and when they present themselves. Again, just a repeat of our comment around the Parks Trust Fund. This is something that's very unique in its creation, and quite frankly, it up until maybe 2011 really was not utilized well. And since I took office, we've now made this a priority, and working closely with the mayor's office and PRAC. Every year we put together a strategic plan in consultation with PRAC to identify areas of concern within parks. And once that is reviewed, we send it and make it part of the city budget for you all to approve. And once you all approve it, then when the invoices come in, we reimburse any expenses. And at times we also pay for it in advance, because I just think it's critically important that, given the beauty of our park system, especially, with what was done with Olmsted, that I think that these are resources that we must invest in and continue to provide them as a wonderful place for residents in the city of Hartford to enjoy. I could flip that page again. Something, again, quite proud of. Over the last 10 years, my office has worked closely with local high schools, and we have incorporated a number of internships over the years. Some of them have gone off to college. Some of them have gone off to law school. Some of them have been able to go on and pursue MBAs. And all I can say about that is that it makes me quite proud to see the bright young students coming out of the city of Hartford. And what my focus was always was to try and provide them an opportunity to get a little better understanding of the financial services industry, because they rotate through our office. So they get to see the investment side, they get to see the custody of funds side, and they also get to see the pension administration side. And the most rewarding aspect of that is when they call us after they've left and say how influential the internship that we provided them was to them in their lives. Other thing that we're working on with Council President Rosado is to create and organize a bilingual financial literacy summit. And one of the other items kind of consistent with that is that I was able to partner with Liberty Bank and Caddick, which is the title insurance company, for home ownership. And what we did with Liberty is create a program that makes it more affordable for Hartford residents to either purchase a home or refinance a home and or make improvements to a home. And what we did is we negotiated lower fees, so about a 50 basis point reduction in your overall interest cost. We negotiated lower prices for the lawyers that closed the transaction. And Liberty Bank stepped up and gave a significant contribution to those who take advantage of the program. And I think this is just something that's very important. We know that home ownership is not that high in Hartford. We know that home ownership is not that high in the city of Hartford. And we know that we have homes that require improvement. And I would very much like to make sure that people who are renting right now, that they reach out. Liberty Bank stands ready to take your phone call and engage you to help you with your credit score and or just talk through what options you may have that could create an opportunity for home ownership for you rather than renting. And further, I would say that the ability
Do you
to
pay for your PCP?
I'm sorry.
I apologize, Mr. Treasurer. Can everyone mute their phones, please? Thank you. You have the floor, Mr. Treasurer. I apologize.
Thank you. And I would just say that home ownership is the greatest opportunity to create equity and therefore create wealth. And this is very important to me because this community will thrive when we have folks that own homes and are able to reside in this city rather than having to try and find a home outside of this city because they may think that they don't have the ability to do so given the lack of opportunity to secure a mortgage. This program, although it is with Liberty, it's statewide, the program that we created is specific for Hartford residents. This information is on my website and or you can call Liberty Bank directly. But if you have questions, please don't ever hesitate to reach out. We have an independent line to our online website where if you have a question, it's the info@treasury.gov. You're more than welcome to send us a question and we will connect you directly with a representative from Liberty Bank. Madam Council President, that concludes my presentation and I am welcome to answer any questions that there may be.
Thank you, Treasurer Cloud, for an excellent, very detailed presentation. And so now I'm going to open it up to my council colleagues. Are there any questions for Treasurer Cloud? Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Treasurer, for a great presentation. First of all, I want to let everyone know and say congratulations to you for being inducted into the Wall Street Hall of Fame. And that was back in February, if no one has seen that. So it's obviously you're doing a great job to be inducted to such a high level and status.
If I may, Councilman, just before your question, I want to respond to that. Thank you ever so much. Yes, the National Association of Securities Professionals, which is the largest organization of minority participants in the financial services industry, one that I joined in 1996 when I started my career in financial services. After all of these years, they finally saw fit to provide me with an award for the work that I'm doing, in particular the award was really about the level of work I'm doing on DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion in the financial services industry. 2 Januaries ago, I made a press release that indicated that this office, the MRF, will, going forward, be reviewing the level of diversity and inclusion in every firm that we do business with and every firm that expects to do business with us. As a result of that, we then graded them on an A to F level, and we released those this spring, almost a month ago. And while some did very well, some did not. And as a result of their failure to do well, they're going to have one more cycle to either improve, or we will consider termination of those firms for failure to meet the goals that we set forth, which include recruitment, retention, and accountability at both the board and at the management level in the asset management firm across the world. Because for me, in 2022, the issue has to be that the firms that manage the money of places like the city of Hartford, who have a diverse number of beneficiaries, should also be diverse in their management of said assets. And so the reward I received, to your point, Councilman Sanchez, was because we in the MRF have almost a 28% of our assets are managed by women or minority-owned firms. And in doing so, holding others accountable, the work that we're doing has made us a national leader in this question of diversity, equity, inclusion. So thank you for mentioning that.
And thank you for sharing that information. I couldn't explain it better myself. I do appreciate you for doing that, and I think it's about time that we start holding these institutions accountable. If we're giving them our money, they need to make sure that it's equitable when it comes to employment and investment throughout the entire system. And again, congratulations. So I'd just like to also thank you for creating that partnership with CADIC. Basically, what is Connecticut Attorney Title Insurance Company, right? CADIC?
Yes, that's correct.
And Liberty Bank and yourself and others. Now, with this public-private partnership, does the city of Hartford have any kind of funding to put forward to helping with first-time home buyers program, specifically for the Hartford employees and in the public safety sector, so that they can move back and invest it?
Well, yes, thank you, Councilman. So to respond to your question, I can't specifically say that there's a program just for public safety officers like police and fire, but I know that I have worked with Development Services, Charles Matthews, as well as Brian Matthews. There's a longstanding existing lending program through Development Services, and Liberty Bank and Development Services are coordinating so that not just the Liberty Bank can be something of value to a prospective homeowner, but the housing division of Development Services also has other lines of opportunity. And so what happens is if someone's calling Liberty Bank, they can also consult with Development Services. And Brian Matthews is doing a great job in helping in that strategic partnership.
And now, do you have or maybe Carmen have this answer, the contact? Because I did receive several emails and calls from Hartford residents who are looking to help their parents and family members to apply for this program. Is there a direct contact number, or who do they call?
Oh, Brian Matthews?
No, for Liberty Bank?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. I can actually give you that number. The woman's name is Fanita Borges. And that's FANITA BORGES.
Okay.
She's probably gonna kill me, but I'm gonna give her cell phone number.
No, she wouldn't mind.
It's 860
Okay,
817 5330.
5330.
Yeah, she's the perfect
Okay.
person to call.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah.
So my next question is about the COLA.
Okay.
So we've had some conversations in the past amongst, believe I had my conversation with Councilman Gale and Council President Rosado and several others. So the question here, which has been answered, if we were to increase the COLA, that hasn't been increased since, 15 years. And with the economy getting more expensive and I guess the question here is, if we were to increase the COLA for our retirees, how do we handle this from the treasurer's office and the general funds, where the treasurer is allowed to make that decision as long as the MRF is doing well? If I asked that correctly.
I'm not sure I follow the question.
Okay, so let's say we move forward in increasing the COLA. Who's responsible for the funding?
The general fund.
The general fund. So how can we transfer that so that the funding comes from the MRF?
Well, first, I know we're scheduled to have a call tomorrow to discuss this, but I'm happy to give you my quick response to that, which is that would require a ordinance that would not only authorize the COLA, but we'd have to then permit in that ordinance the MRF the obligation to do that. The issue with this, however, is that because we're an irrevocable trust, the purpose of the MRF, hence the trust, is to pay benefits and administrative cost. A COLA is neither of those. And in doing so, if we were to make the MRF pay the COLA increased cost, what we in essence would be doing is we'd be lending money to the city, which actually would come back to us. And what I mean by that is we pay an ADEC of $53 million approximately. The charter says that the the ADEC shall be paid by the city of Hartford, i.e. the general fund. Now, if we had a COLA, and I'll give one of the examples I used was all employees over the age of 72, and that would end up being amortized over 15 years, $956,000 per year of increased cost for that COLA to the ADEC. So if it's 53, it would be 53,956. Now, if we lent you that money, the 953, then you'd have to pay us back 53,956. And the increase of the ADEC, the 953, means that under the charter, you have to pay all of it, but you wouldn't be paying all of it because we lent it to you.
Okay, so
And let me add,
it's a little confusing.
let me try and add that. You have an obligation to pay the full ADEC.
Right.
If that ADEC increases to 53,956, you're supposed to pay it all. However, you wouldn't be paying it all because we lent you the 956.
I see what you're saying.
Additionally, let me add this point because it's important that kind of transaction may jeopardize our tax status under IRS code.
And how would that be?
The MRF is a qualified trust under 26 USC section 401 of the federal tax code. And when contributions made by city employees remain pre-tax contributions and the earnings from investments of the MRF remain tax-free, one of the requirements of a qualified trust is that the money in the fund cannot be diverted for any other purpose than paying pension benefit and administrative costs of running the trust.
Okay, I understand now. Okay, I don't have any further question at this moment, but thank you, Treasurer Cloud, for explaining that to me. I think it's important that the audience know what's going on when it comes to the COLA. I just feel that, 15 years is quite a long time, and not addressing an increase when the economy is getting so much expensive, so much more expensive nowadays. And our retirees, well, I'm sure we have retirees who are, collecting a pretty good pension, but the majority of our retirees, if not at the medium gross income, they're close to it. And I think we have to find a way to support them. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman.
Madam Chair, may I just add something?
Sure.
So, Jimmy, you are correct. As you noticed in what I submitted, I gave 3 options for the council to consider. One of them was provide a COLA to everybody who makes receives less than $50,000 in pension benefit. It's more than 2,000 people. Now, let me say something. I mentioned the fact that inflation is going up and at a 40-year high. So that means that not only the cost of gas, the cost of medicine, the cost of food is all going through the roof. And I don't say this often, but I think it's important to say today. I can't tell you all how many calls I get from retirees who are on the phone crying to me because they cannot buy food. They have to make a decision between food and their medicine. And many of them who are over 72 can't get a part-time job at Walmart. Either their health says that or they're just not, able enough to do so. And so, yes, it's been 15 years. And remember, unlike the state, we don't have a mandatory COLA, right? This is an option for us to do, which is why I think it had to be brought to the council as a policy matter, 1. 2, historically, what used to happen is there was a COLA task force. And that COLA task force was chaired by myself, and it used to be the city manager, and now it's the COO. Over the years in which I have served, I have submitted a request to every mayor to convene a COLA. We've convened 2 of them, or maybe 3. And what we end up doing is we work with the actuaries to create what that number might be. And each time it has been resoundingly rejected by the administration. And I just feel very strongly that as a matter of fairness, that a COLA is warranted. And quite frankly, after not having to dip into any outside general fund dollars after 15 years, at some point, out of fairness, I think It is a policy question that needs an answer. And I would add that in my legal analysis and research on this matter, a COLA task force is not exactly, it's not by ordinance. It was done way back when as a resolution. And if you look at the state statute, it is in fact the city council that makes the determination of whether a COLA can be granted, not my office and no one else. Sorry for that long-winded response, but I thought that might help advance the conversation.
Thank you, Treasurer Cloud. And so further clarification, at the end of the day, the COLA would come out of the general fund. And so I am looking forward to having all these discussions and getting educated when we submit the ordinance that you sent to council and when we do refer it to committee. So we can talk furthermore about all of this. You know, with a city that's coming out of bankruptcy, where we're trying to keep employees, where I wish we could give everyone a raise, right? Especially our DPW staff. So I think there are a lot of things that we need to consider, but I am really looking forward to going through the process of having that conversation in the OMBGA committee when the COLA ordinance gets referred to. I also want to thank you, Treasurer Cloud, for having the conversations with me in this office regarding bilingual literacy summit. I think it's much needed in the city, so I commend and thank you for your leadership on that, as well as our Deputy Treasurer, Carmen Sierra, who's always there and supports council with any questions or concerns. Councilman LeBron, you have the floor.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Just one quick question. So hello, Director Cloud and Deputy Director Sierra. Thank you for all your continued hard work and all your efforts. And I'm appreciative to see the power of the women running the office, that they're the majority there. That's awesome to see. As a girl dad, my question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Treasurer, Mr. Treasurer, is that you mentioned something around $4 million that could be invested in communities, in our communities. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's called ETI, Economically Targeted Investing.
Okay, and then there seemed to be some kind of obstacle preventing us from doing that, correct? Was I correct in hearing that?
Yes, and
okay.
I'm happy to explain that. The obstacle is, as a pension fund, we can't directly invest in something. So if there was a business that wanted to get started, or a piece of real estate that wanted to get constructed, we can't invest directly, meaning the fund write a check to that developer. We have to use a third-party asset manager. And using a third-party asset manager, the challenge with that is most of the folks that do this ETI investing, they need a minimum amount of dollars from us to the tune of almost $50 million, because what they do is they take our money and combine it with the city of Sacramento and Denver, and they combine all those assets, and then they go to various towns throughout the country to look for investment. I don't want that. I don't want our money commingled where our money might be spent on projects in Colorado or New York. I want it to be in our backyard. And the challenge is there's nobody out there in the space that has a minimum requirement less than 50 million. And we've got 4 set aside. So what I have tried to do is find, instead of what's called a pooled grouping of asset managers, I'm looking to find a private equity real estate firm that I can work directly, hand them the $4 million and have them invest that in our backyard in Hartford. I did have a group that was in Philadelphia that looked at a number of projects, but they did not think that the economics of those projects made sense, and so they passed on the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. So lastly, through you, Madam Chair, last question. So with the $4 million, and you're the expert in investment, but I assume it's just not sitting somewhere, right? We could put it somewhere where it can gain interest or gain interest for the city. Yes,
it's part of the overall $1 billion trust, and so it's earning money because it's part of the investment in the overall portfolio.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you guys for all your efforts.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions for Treasurer Cloud? Councilman Gale?
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, Treasurer Cloud and Assistant Treasurer Carmen Sierra.
Good evening.
See you both. I have 3 questions for you. The first question is, I note, and thank you very much for this, that in our budget book, it shows that you have a total of 18 employees, 9 funded through the general fund and 9 funded through the MRF. And you gave us the statistics on the demographics on the 9 general fund employees. I'm wondering if you could provide us with the demographics on the 9 MRF funded employees. And you don't need to do that now. You can certainly just email it to us after this presentation. So we would have the demographics of your entire office.
Sure. Actually, I think I can give you that number. Let's see, that would be.
And just it's just because we were just doing the general fund. That's all we provided.
Yeah. Right. And specifically, Councilman Gale, it's not that we don't want to share that, because I'll give you the number. But remember, when we present to the council for budget purposes, we focus on the Treasury budget because that's generally funded. The budget out of the MRF and those staff is paid for by MRF, not general fund. That's why we make the distinction, but happy to respond to the question. So in the pension administration unit, which is, and the investment unit, those are the 2 principal units that are paid for by the MRF. In that, we have 3 men and the rest women, and there are 2 Hartford residents between investment and PAU. And I don't want to, it could be 3, but I don't want to double count because Sean Antoine, who's my analyst, is split between MRF and general fund. So he's reflected in the general fund budget, and I shouldn't double count him on the MRF side. That make sense?
Whenever you have a chance, the racial demographics as well. And again, don't need it now, just part of the whole breakdown.
Nope, no worries. I can do that too. I can do it right now. There are 2 African American. There are 1 Latinx, 1 Turkish, 1 white female, and 1 white male.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Second question for you. When Russia decided to invade Ukraine, this city council, like many elective bodies around the country, passed a resolution asking if you in the Treasurer's office would look at our investments and see to what extent you might be able to disinvest from anything that was assisting the Russian government. So trying to supplement the sanctions that were put in place by our government, our United States government, as well as many other foreign governments. I'm just wondering if you can report tonight whether, and truthfully, let me just say, we at council had no idea whether our city has any investments. So we understand there may be nothing that could be done, but I'm just wondering if you can report tonight as to whether there was any disinvestments that we were able to make to put a little pressure on the Russian government here.
Absolutely. I don't have my my letter regarding that in front of me, but let me summarize. Number one, we did receive the request from you, Councilman Gale. I would note, however, that prior to your request, we had already begun working on that as a matter of divestment. And we subsequently produced, and I believe it was reported out in our April Pension Commission meeting minutes, which are available on our website. And I broke down the percentage. It is a nascent amount. I think it's like I don't want to misquote it, but it might have been like 12 basis points of our total portfolio had any exposure. And that exposure was not because we were directly investing, but rather in our emerging market asset class. We invest in a firm that uses an indices, and inside the indices, they include Russia as part of the indices. Generally, the larger emerging markets in the indices that we use as a proxy are Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And so we don't invest directly again. Instead, the firm that we hire uses the indices, and they break down their ownership of assets to mimic the percentage of representation in that indices. And so what happened with that subsequent to us doing the analysis is the indices cut Russia out of the indices. So Russia is no longer in that indices. So there's no representation anymore relative to Russia in the indices that we invest in.
Thank you for that. Great. Again, as I mentioned, I don't know that this has a tremendous effect on Russia, but I think any little bit that everybody can do, hopefully cumulatively, it has a positive effect. My last question, Treasurer, and I know the markets have been very volatile, and but and you've mentioned our $1 billion fund, our pension fund, our MERF fund, it hovers around $1 billion, as I understand it. We don't have any particular figures provided tonight, and I'm just wondering if you're able, and again, not necessarily right now, but if you're able to provide us with a year-over-year statement as to the value of the pension fund, and I'm not sure what measure, how you measure whether these are, but I would just take any 12-month period, a year over year. I think would be interesting for us to see how we're doing, whether we're going up or whether we're going down. So, okay,
so again, something that is provided on our website, but as of close of business today, we are at $1.06 billion. 899,000. And I can't share this because the slide is too big, but on this slide is my breakout year to year. So if I go back to June of 2015, and this is a quarterly kind of breakout. But at one point, in December of 2015, we were at less than $1 billion. Today, as I told you, we're at $1.06 billion. And I would note that the real issue around the fluctuation in the markets, while we are certainly concerned about up and down markets and the volatility, we also are long-term investors. And so we don't look at things based on what happened last month, but what we're projecting 5 years, 10 years, 30 years from now. And what many people may not appreciate is that with that $1 billion, every year we have to pay out pension benefits. And so if we start in fiscal 10-15, when I took over the fund, the benefit payments then was $88 million. It is today $120 million. And so when you think about that, over the last 10 years, we have paid out over $1 billion in benefit payments while still maintaining the value of the fund over $1 billion. And quite frankly, that's remarkable. And I say that because if I go back to fiscal year ending in June 2016, our year return was 1.3%. 16 was a volatile year, and the benchmark return was 1.9, so we underperformed the benchmark. In 2017, we did 10.6% versus 9.8, beating the benchmark. In 2018, we did 7.1%, and the benchmark return was 6.9. In 2019, we did 7.0, and the benchmark was 5.3, beating it again. In 2020, an off market and volatility, especially due to COVID, we did 2.3%, and the benchmark did 90 basis points, again, beating the benchmark. And in 2021, we returned 25.4%, slightly missing the benchmark by 26.6%. But you know what? I'll take 25.4 any day. My point is, in those years, I think 5 of the last 6, we have beat our benchmark. And as a result, are able to pay that benefit stream without seeing a significant reduction in the principal balance of the fund. I can't hear you, Councilman.
Thank you for that. Sorry about that. Appreciate it and great job. And we see it in our pension contribution. And I understand that for the, not sure exactly how many years, but for quite a few years now, we've been pretty much fully funding our pension contribution. So we are aware on this side of the equation what it takes to keep that fund balance where it is so that it can pay all of our obligations. And so good job. Thank you very much. No more questions, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions for our treasurer? Any more questions? Going once, going twice. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer, for that beautiful presentation. And as always, I can't say enough. Thank you for your leadership and for also always having an open conversation with the Council President's Office. And I look forward to continuing to work with you throughout the year. And to Carmen also, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's always
welcome to stay.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to see you all, and even better to continue to have such a significant working relationship. It's very meaningful to us, and we appreciate you all greatly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Have a good night.
Thank
So,
you.
Great. Moving on to our agenda, which is agenda item 2.2, which is the presentation of the Office of the Town and City Clerk. Hello, Mr. Clerk. How are you? We can't hear you.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Madam President, council members. So glad to sit before you for this budget presentation. Let me see if I can get my technology. Share the screen. You seeing that all right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. So thank you once again. Let me just. All right, this is our mission statement of the town. The town clerk's office is the official record keeper of the city of Hartford. We're responsible for recording, maintaining, and certifying land records, including deeds, mortgage, liens, maps, and any other related documents, vital statistics, which are birth, marriage, civil unions, and death. The secretary of the city council, the keeper of minutes and agendas of boards and commission and other town records, to ensure transparency of council agendas and enhance civic engagement. The town clerk's office is one of neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all with an emphasis on providing information according to applicable state and local laws accurately, efficiently, and cost-effective in the timely and courteous manner. Our organizational chart has been a little reorganization, and I thought it very important that I put on top of our organization chart that we report to the Court of Common Council. Since I've been appointed, I realize that so many people do not know that there is a legislative and executive branch of government, and that the council is the legislative, and we work for the legislative branch of government, and we report to the Court of Common Council. And I, as the town and city clerk, appointed by the Court of Common Council to run and manage the department of the town and city clerk. Under me is our assistant town clerk and our project manager, Mr. Lusa, who is on, and also our vital in our town clerk staff and our vital record staff reports directly to him. We have our senior administrative assistant, Trey Williams, who is on the line, who was recently promoted to that position. And on the town clerk side, we have, I think, one of our other employees, but is on the line, Vanessa. She is a newer employee. She's been here just a year. Fantastic job she's doing, as with all the rest of the employees. As you see in red, we have 3 vacancies, which is not really true, because yesterday I've gotten the okay to fill 2 of the position, the assistant registrar in the vital records and the administrative assistant, which I'll be so happy to be able to bring the person over from city council to continue working with us in those tasks. So we really only have 1 opening, and that's the principal administrative assistant. And we'll have some discussion on that in the future, that position, as we continue to assess where we are as an office and our needs. Our staff composition is 5 City of Hartford residents, 3 non-resident, 3 Hispanic Latinx. That will increase to 1 more since with the new hirees. African American, Black 4, that will increase to 1 more, and 1 white Caucasian. We have, this will increase to 7 females, I'm sorry, and 3 males going forward. The highlights, continue staff development through training and certification classes. That's from top to bottom. We've have most of our employees have taken part in some type of training within the last 12 months. A matter of fact, the office had to shut down for a part of 2 days as all the office took the training on how to have a great meeting on the FOI and how to manage agendas and meetings. So we are moving forward with the increase of training and certification classes. When I came on, we had one notary in the office, and I've been able to talk with HR, and we made that part of the job description because one of our duties is to be notaries of documents, and that they be required to be notaries within 6 months of being hired. We will pay for their notary expenses. They'll be working for the town clerk's office as notaries. We now have 3 notaries. The one that we had before has retired, but we have 3. So we have a net gain of 2 in the town clerk's office. And we have a notary in the vital records also. Other highlights is really one of the big hits of the last 6 months is with our implementation of the iCompass Council Agenda Management Software and the boards and commission. I have it here as 2 parts because it came in as 2 parts, but it's actually software that was purchased under a grant that we received for civic engagement. And the other thing that we've done is we've enhanced the security of vital records, our point of sales, to improve accountability. As you're aware, we had some issues there last year, and those issues have caused us to move forward, to make some changes, and to make sure that we have more accountability there. One of the other highlights is, which is almost set to launch within the next 2 weeks, is our Premium Vital Director. And this will help us to reduce fees and increase revenue through easy to use app. This was no cost to the city. The software, they get their fees from the amount of transaction that they process. And this Vital Director will improve our technology, and I'll go into that a little bit more. We are almost set to launch a citywide voter education absentee ballot campaign. We're working on that with our procurement department and getting that so that we can have it ready by the fall election. And what we do on a yearly basis, we're continue to convert permanent records to digital images for preservation and instantaneous retrieval. A little tongue-tied tonight. That's something that we receive a $10,000 grant each year to digitize those records. And we have someone come in, they go up to the 4th floor and make sure those records are in order and transported to the Hartford Public Library. Our strategic initiative is, as I was talking about, our citywide civic engagement program. We plan on meeting with the NRZs and community groups, inform them of the iCompass civic engagement platform. We want to educate the community of importance of boards and commission as a policy generators. We want to explain to the citizens the importance of being involved. I've also already made contact with one radio station to do an interview so that their listeners will know more about civic engagement. And of course, our Premium Vital Director, our marketing campaign, what we plan to do with that is to make sure that we get that information out to all of our community-based newspapers, radios, wherever we can on the website, and to develop a civic engagement campaign through our maybe starting Facebook page and so forth. We're preparing for statewide elections, absentees. With the COVID-19, we saw a increase. We did about 13,000 absentee ballots for the presidential election. We're expecting to do slightly less than that for the statewide, and that also depends on what is our positivity rate at the time. As the positivity rate increases, we believe that the absentee ballot will increase. One of the things that we're planning to do is to digitize our birth records to improve productivity. By digitizing them, we'll be able to pull the records directly from a database instead of going to the vault and pulling the books. And we'll save money because every time we pull a book, we make a copy. They make a copy, they redact the birth social security number, and then make another copy to certify. So we're wasting a lot of paper because those copied with the birth certificate end up going into the recycle bin. And the installation, this is one of the initiatives that we're very proud of that we're able to do for city councils, the installation of council audio visual equipment to enable full hybrid court of common council and committee meetings. And that's also at no cost to the city. That was done through our civic engagement grant. We're hoping that we've got confirmation that that will be installed at the end of this month. I think the 24th of this month will begin the installation. We have some back orders on some wireless mics that will take 3 to 4 months later to come in, but we'll be able to use the current mics until those come in. And you'll see an improvement. There'll be a 75-inch monitor versus the screen with the projector, which will be much clearer. All right, this just shows some of the capabilities of our iCompass council management software. This was the council meeting of Monday night. With this software, you can view the council, when you're reviewing the meetings, the council meeting comes up. We have the ability to timestamp it. So if you wanted to go to a particular resolution, you would hit that and it would go right to that resolution. So you can hear what the comments are said on that particular item. We're working to make sure that we can perfect that, but that has the capabilities. So when you pull up on the council page, you'll see a link from the council page, the iCompass. It will pull up all the agendas, the dates, the meetings, and the resolution. And you can also, it has a button before this one where you hit the video, and this is the picture that comes in, and you'll see that. The other initiative is these pamphlets will go out to the hospitals for the newborns. We have a QR code that you just scan that in. If you take your phone and you scan it in, you'll see it pop up the site where you'll be able to download the documents needed to obtain the birth certificate and other certificates in deaths and marriages also. With this QR code, it makes it simple. Most people have smartphones, so you can just download it. Most people have in their buffers their personal information, so it makes it easier to fill out. So these pamphlets will be issued at the hospital to the new mothers at the birth of their babies to make it easier for them. They'll know exactly when that birth certificate is ready and they can apply for it. Also, in the vital records, this will be embedded on the webpage and any other correspondence we set out on this matter, so that you'll have that QR code accessible for downloading those forms and filling them out electronically and submitting them. Part of the restructure there would be in the vital director system is that it would bring up the requests in order that they're sent in, so that we won't miss anyone and they'll be there waiting to be processed by the staff. And our staff is being trained in the use of the vital director. I think the next training is tomorrow afternoon, and after that we'll probably be set to launch within the next 2 weeks. This is our budget comparison. We have a general fund of a minus 2.5%, grants plus 1,255.5%. This represents a carryover from our civic engagement grant, which enabled us to develop a citywide voter education absentee ballot campaign and to digitize birth records and database. And we're working with procurement on that process. I just wanted to share our distribution report. Year to date, that is up to a couple days ago, we have taken in $7.7 million. The state of Connecticut shares $3.7 million. Our city of Hartford year-to-date revenues is $3.9, where we will go over the $4 million in revenue for the town clerk and vital records office. This is a breakdown of the distribution of the various functions that we perform, for marriage license, hunting and fishing, dog license, animal control fund that goes to the state, our Community Investment Act farm and state and farm fund, our historic preservation. These all go over to the state, but these are some of the expenses that are passed through onto the state. On here also would show our deeds and notaries, domestic partnerships, our aircraft registration, our copies, hunting, fishing license, what we retain, our dog tag, what we retain, and our marriage license surcharge, our body removal permits. That's very important. That when the funeral homes, that's a fee for the funeral homes, and cremation permits, transcript of records, that's like the general pool of funds for everything, and other services and miscellaneous. So out of all of these categories, we'll retain over $4 million in city revenues. And that's the second page of that. That is the presentation. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll take those questions now.
If we could close the presentation, Mr.
Yes.
Clerk, so that I can see
Okay.
everything.
Oh, let me figure that out. 1 second. 1 second. I got two screens here and I don't know which one is the control.
It's okay.
Yeah. For some reason, it's not coming up. All right.
If you want, you can just log off and log back in. I guess that'll close it.
Yeah, it's not.
Can't get to close it or the screen is frozen.
No, hold on a second. That's Teams.
And the town clerk will be with us shortly. There you are, Mr. Clerk. I don't think I could hear you.
Froze
There
up
you
on
are.
me. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So congratulations on that. Very informative presentation. I have to tell you, I really enjoyed it, especially the part with the moms with their newborns. So when my daughter was born, I wish we had that kind of technology. But congratulations to you and your team for a great presentation and for your leadership and hard work every day. With that said, I'm opening up the floor to my council colleagues for any questions to our town clerk. Are there any questions for our town clerk? Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a quick question, Mr. Town Clerk. Just make
Yes,
sure
sir.
I'm reading the payment schedule correctly.
Yes.
Where I see hunting and fishing licenses, and then it says state, and dog licenses, it says state,
Mhm.
and then I see city. Does that mean that's the part that we send back to the state, and the city part is the part that we keep?
Yes, it is. We receive $1 for every dog license. And the tags cost us 5 cents a piece. And we mail out a reminder that it is whatever postcard is, 35, 45 cents. Then we receive the request back and we mail the license out at 55 cents. So we make 0.5 cent on every dog license that we issue.
This is a real money. It's a real moneymaker. It looks like we got 600 dogs then that are somewhere around 600 dogs that are registered if it's a $0.50 per dog, and I'm sure we've got considerably more than that in town. But anyway, not going there. What I do think though is we certainly have a lot more fishermen than $18. So we got to get them to run their licenses through the city and not just go online and get it through the state. Anyway.
Yes.
Very insignificant in terms of our budget. Thank you for everything that you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments for our town clerk? Councilman Sanchez.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam President. Mr. Clerk, great presentation. I also enjoyed it. Very informative. And I'm looking forward to the educational piece for our community. Going back, I want to piggyback off Councilman Gale's question on these certain items, like the dog licenses. Do you have a calculation on how many hours are spent by our paid employees for the work that they're doing for the state? Because it seems to me that there's several line items there that we collect the revenue, but it does not stay with Hartford.
Okay, so I don't have a breakdown on the time, but if you look at it, most of what we do is state mandated to a extent. So half of what our workload really, the notaries are not, they come in, all of the real estate, the convenience tax and all that, half of that pretty much goes to the state, and half stays here, a little bit more than half stays here. Our birth records, all that stays here. The marriage license, there's a fee that goes to the state for every marriage license. I think it's 18 out of the 50. I think Terea, if you're online here, she's our supervisor of vital records. Can you make sure that I'm correct on that? Is it $18 per marriage license?
Yes, sir, you're correct on that.
Okay, you're not showing yourself right. Smile at them. Yes. There you go. Yes, so that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And the rest of the fees stays here. So from the vital side, only $18 or whatever we bring in for every marriage license goes to the state, but the rest of it stays with us, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay. No, go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, and so a lot of what we do outside of the council side is mandated by state statutes, and also a great portion of what we do is for the state.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Clerk, I have a question on staffing. So you have one open position in vital records, is that correct now?
As of yesterday, that will be filled, and as of yesterday, the position in my office and in this side of the office will be filled. So that leaves one vacancy, and we're going to assess that need as we get everyone in and moving forward. With technology, it's helped us to do a lot. What used to take us a many hours to do the agenda from the old days of piles and piles of paper. We're doing electronically. I had for 2 years, I had drawers full of old agendas. And now with it being digital, I don't have that big mass of paper. So we're saving money on papers and time and efficiency. So we're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. We've come a long way in 2 years, even though through a pandemic. So
yes,
congratulations.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Councilman LeBron?
Yes, and through you, Madam President. So I want to thank the clerk's office for the movement to the digital age. I just have to comment that the iCompass system is phenomenal. But Mr. Clerk, do you have an estimation about how much money we saved as a result of digitizing the agendas and all of those and all that paperwork?
No, I don't. I don't have an exact amount. I just know we're saving money because we're not printing all of these agendas, papers, sending everything electronically. I've been doing it electronically, but there was a need to print them out once you got it electronically. At one point, the agendas used to be printed out for every single council members, the mayor's office, corporate council. Now we've eliminated that need, not just in our department, but other departments that would print out the digital copies.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Just, I don't know, and you know the office obviously exponentially better than I do, but I would just say, like, whatever we were paying on paper previously, that would be that number. You can start with that, and
Yes.
then and I would imagine that it's obviously the more efficient piece, but also cost effective. So thank you and your entire team, Mr. Luce. I've seen them on, but thank you guys and the entire team. I have to say, just in terms of time management, as a council person, it has just been such a positive change, and I thank you for bringing us up to that. It's also very convenient for our constituents who can do direct links. I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. So thank you for your leadership on that.
Thank you very much, Councilman. And we still are trying to get the most out of the program. There's other components of it that we have not yet fully implemented, and we'll see that when the new staff gets down here and we really start getting into the boards and commission, the NRZs and so forth, and have all that information available at the click of a button. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Surgeon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Mr. Clerk.
Good evening.
Thank you and your staff for the presentation. One of the things you mentioned with the new system, you talked about it being more actively involved in civic involvement. Mm-hmm. So since you have incorporated the new, I know back in the days you print off 100,000 pieces of paper and shared the agenda. Have you seen how many more people are involved in coming, or can you see how many people are coming to the new system and looking at the agenda and participating?
I believe on the back end we could track that. Eric, if you know for sure, I remember we talked about that in the development of the program. Eric?
Yeah, you have seen a significant increase. We can see the hits, the metrics on the back end of the website. When the agendas go out or public notices go out on, like, say, a Wednesday for agenda day, you'll see anywhere in the neighborhood of like 2,000 hits. Some days are more than others, but we can track it now. So.
Okay, so between now and next year's budget, at least you can see how many people are looking at the agenda. What about the remaining part of the program for the committee portion of it?
Yeah, everything's trackable down to the granular level. I mean, the committees, you can see what's the most viewed stuff on the web pages, what's getting traction, what's not. The biggest thing that gets traction is the council agenda. The committees don't get as much traction. OMB, GLA gets the most. Some of the smaller committees get a few less hits.
Okay. So at least you can be able to give us some stats, on a 6 months basis on the civic involvement. Now, Mr. Clerk, you also talked about as you get more of your staff on board, going out to the NRZs and the community groups. What exactly are your presentation as far as getting more civic involvement? And are you working with any other departments for a combination of sharing when you go out there, what the city is doing?
Good question, Councilwoman. I didn't think, well, we haven't fully developed what we're going to do. So as far as the other city departments, I was thinking more on a town clerk level of what we're here to do to enhance city council. Not that it doesn't enhance the rest of the city, but as I had in my organizational chart, we report to the Court of Common Council. So I was looking at it from a civic engagement part with the Court of Common Council. Of course, what we do with absentee ballots also as part of it. And we have a campaign that's going to go out, especially focusing on absentee ballot. We're going to look at a presentation of kind of a general civic type of course where you explain how boards and commission help set policies for city government, and that people can get involved in those issues that they find very dear and close to them and try to change policies as it would benefit the whole city.
Okay, so I would say then that you would probably work with the Registrar Voters Office closely, especially when the election portion of it starts.
Yes, we work very closely with the ROVs on all that we do concerning the absentee ballots and so forth. Yes.
Okay. I was curious on when you made the presentation, the beginning of your presentation, that you said that the town clerk office works for the Hartford Court of Common Council. Is that in the charter? How is that laid out structural wise within the city? And if your department reports to, or is it just you report just to the Court of Common Council? How is that fine line between the administration and the Court of Common Council?
It's a very fine line, to be honest. It's we're kind of left here to do what we do without direct supervision from anyone but the council. So therefore, I report to the Common Council. I'm the town and city clerk. Therefore, the town and city clerk is under me, so it's under you. I don't have an exact rationale or understanding of what you mean is that in the city charter.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm just trying to, when you made that statement, I think I've known this for numerous years, but then I'm like, and just going back to history, can't remember how that, the directive that if you say you're under the guidance of the Court of Common Council, the Court of Common Council elects a council president, to speak on behalf of the council, then I'm still trying to rationalize it in my head. How does this work? And then if you, looking at your budget, if you've got like about $3 million revenue coming in, can the Court of Common Council, say that's our revenue? I'm just joking. Here probably wouldn't like that. It says, it says the Court of Common Council. Why not?
Yes. I've had discussions with the administration on several occasions, and they say, well, no, you don't work for us. So, it's your decision. So my decisions are based on, I have to report to the Court of Common Council, and the council president is the leader of the Court of Common Council. So I have one-on-one with her on certain things, and all the other council members, if I need anything, I kind of talk to them and see what we need. But we still have to go through that whole process, which sometimes I feel that it slows us up sometimes, but it's the process. So we still have to go through city procurement and personnel and HR and everything else. But
Because most of your staff, they're not appointed, they're civic
civil service.
civil servants. So,
Yes.
you know, I can truly understand that.
Yeah.
And more or less, it's like the administration is a supporter of that office as far as telecommunication and everything else that you need.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. I think the information regarding the fees was very enlightening. And thank you and thank your staff for a successful year last year for 2021. And I look forward to working with your new staff and everyone for this upcoming fiscal year.
Well, thank you. There's one thing I think Councilman Gale would be interested in this. I meant to mention it. The state is in the process of trying to determine if they wanted to take over statewide dog registration. And there was a survey that went out to the town clerks in all of the towns. Some of the bigger cities said, by all means, take it over. And a lot of the small towns said, no, they want to hold on to it. And I think, Eric, you may have a little bit more information on that, where that is.
The state seems to think that they can double the dog tags statewide, which would make it a revenue generator. So the bill didn't pass at the legislature for this session. However, there are talks with the Town Clerk Association to see, what's the best way to transition that from the local level to the state level.
I'm okay now. I'm finished, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any other, my co-chair, Councilman Clark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Mr. Clerk, thank you for your presentation. iCompass, I believe, is great, and it's something that we all going to get used to. Are there any other counterparts within the town clerks across the state of Connecticut that are using the same system?
I believe we are the first in the state of Connecticut with the iCompass. There are other municipalities using other type of software. We were just recently at our spring conference, and I showed the iCompass to the town clerk of Derby, and he was so impressed. He said, you need to bring them up to the next conference so that all the towns could see it. We do get inquiries on what type of software we're using. So many towns are still using Word to do their agendas, and they're finding out that time is passing them by. So there has been a lot of inquiries from the various towns and cities as to what other municipalities, what we're using, other municipalities are using. So I think that we are the first in the state of Connecticut to use iCompass.
Thank you for that. And regarding land records, will there ever be a point where we will get to the point of those things being digitized and they can go on the city's website to pay the fee to do that?
Yeah, they already are, but Eric can answer that.
Yeah, we have a web-based portal that generates about $40,000 a year. That just takes away from our, the vendor has a fee for this, so the $40,000 just goes towards our yearly bill. It might be a little more, but all land records are digitized from 2001-ish to current.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sanchez?
Before this presentation ends, I do want to say one more thing. Obviously, I want to thank you, Mr. Clerk, for such a tremendous job in bringing and moving our city clerk's office to the 21st century. But I also want to thank Mr. Lusa and the team for being there and helping you make all this happen. And I look forward to all the new other programs that that we're waiting on to get implemented so that we can move this city even further into a modern time. It's been a long time coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I just can't say enough about my team. They are very willing and eager to move forward with the new technology. I believe in, Mr. Lusa has been here longer than I have, that they are more engaged in training. And we are also cross-training the office staff. We won't have one person specializing. Everyone will be pretty much doing the same work and moving forward together, growing together. Our new employees are soaking it in, and they're very eager. So we have a great working staff, from Teray and her team in Vital Records. We're bringing on a young lady there that we're very excited to bring on. And then, of course, we stole someone from you that I'm eager to get her here. She's very good at what she does and pleasant to work with, and is eager, and so I can't say enough about the staff.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any other comments or questions for our town clerk? There being none, Mr. Clerk, feel free to stay on, and thank you for that great presentation. Looking forward to continuing to work with you, and also let me say, I always get the title confused. Eric, it's assistant town clerk, correct? And manager, is that your job title?
Assistant town clerk and project manager. I'm a registered assistant town clerk with the state of Connecticut. Here in the building, I'm a project manager, so I do it all.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know that when our town clerk, got appointed, he did commit to us that he was gonna go and take the classes, and I for a fact know this because I've been approving his invoices. So congrats to you both. With that said, we're now moving to item 2.3 of our agenda, which is the presentation from the Office of the Registrar of Voters. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, everyone, for watching online. Council members who are here. I'm joined with Vanessa Garay Jackson, who's the Republican Registrar. Online also is my deputy, Ms. Kathy Brooks. And viewing is the other two staff members who are actually three. Olga Colon, which is our executive secretary. We have Gloria Bell Santiago, our front desk, and we have Chabali Gonzalez, who's our 90-day temp. I'm going to share the slide now. Can everyone see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So let's move on. Our mission. The Registrar of Voters Election Administrators, ROV, serves the needs of the voting public in the municipality in which they are elected. ROV is governed by federal, state, and local laws. ROV works closely with the Office of Secretary of State, SOX, to ensure registered residents exercise their right to vote. Procedures are protected. ROV's sacred honor is to protect, promote public trust, and confidence that we will conduct a fair and accurate election to the best of our abilities. It is a requirement that we stay focused on our vision of a free, impartial election despite changes in our society and its laws. Nurturing and protecting democracy is a team effort. Registrars continue to advance with required professional accreditations prescribed by SOX and current election laws. ROV is bond and to uphold integrity and performing all duties of our profession. The next slide is our department organizational chart. The voters, myself as Democratic Registrar, Secretary of State, where we get our rules and regs from, Republican Registrar Vanessa Garay Jackson, our deputy for the Democratic Deputy Kathy Brooks, Executive Assistant Olga Colon. Republican Deputy right now is vacant. We have Gloria Santiago, who's our data clerk, and Chibali is our 90-day temp, which we now have a vacant position in our general clerk. The next one is the composition of our employees here within the staff. We're all Hartford residents. We're all female. African American is Miss Kathy Brooks. Hispanics are the remaining, no Caucasians, and so forth. I went ahead and did the composition of our staff for poll workers. So you'll see that 28% are Hartford resident, 5% are non, 23 are female, 7% are male, 24% are African American, 11% are Hispanic, and the 2% are Caucasian or others. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I know it's late and people want to go home. Our highlights for 2022. We maintain voter files, voting tabulations, and preparations for elections that are mandated by the Secretary of State. Accuracy of daily updates by completing record retentions, maintenance of enrollment, Canvas, and DMV. Participate in several community events to promote voter registration. Due to continued concerns with COVID, mailing of registration cards were suggested via the high schools this year to each and every head council. We are, for federal requirements, the Registrar of Voters is meeting the needs of the city diverse citizenry. Via SOTS, we are currently using language line solutions in every polling location, which is a new app, the use of multi-languages, interpreters to go in and interact with any residents that come in and need some type of translation. There's over 300 languages that are provided through that. And I can give you a little bit more details if you like. We provide training for the election officials. We did a special election for the 5th Assembly District and the Board of Education this past fiscal year. Conducted our annual canvas. We processed over 64,000 canvas cards, processed 3,714 new voters, processed 11,514 voter changes, which were either between deaths, moves, party affiliations, etc. We completed an ERIC report, which is a mandate through the Secretary of State. Redistricting was also completed this year, and we're soon going to be processing districts, state and district office petitions that will begin now that endorsements are coming to a close. Our budget highlights for this coming year. Like I stated, the party endorsements, the primary petitions, the end of the filing petitions will be June 7th. We're coming into a busy season here within the Registrar of Voters office right now, preparing for August primary. We're going to be holding a media campaign to ensure awareness of all the polling locations, among other things. Also doing which is further down, informing voters of the referendum questions and the general election that's happening in November. Preparing for the August primary. We're doing Canvas once again because that's a repeat. We're continuing with our SOTS training. We also, and I encourage council members to please, during elections or prior to elections, ROV works closely with Vota Coalition, which is, a lot of people may know it through, back in the day, Linda Baird, God bless her soul, and Richard Frieder. That's a group that Registrar Voters Office has been behind the scenes with them since day number one. And this year we took the initiative from several, thanks to Councilman John Gale's concerns the last time, and several budgets before that, that he wanted to have, how can ROV educate more of the voters in regards to the candidates. So what we decided to do is take Vote and Vote Coalition or Hartford Votes. We did a website with them, and what we do is hold interviews that are posted on that website. So it doesn't, ROV has to play a gray line when it comes to candidates. So this is a better way of everyone getting to know the candidate, and especially during COVID, that was one of the things that was taking place. The last one was the March special election for the 5th district. And once again, ROV is also part of ISAC, which is an election cybersecurity. So on a monthly basis, we do take training in regards to that to make sure that we're updated. Our MHIS is connected with this program. So anything that comes out within regards to elections, cyber attacks, and so forth, our MHIS is well aware of it. They send us newsletters, what to be aware of, and so forth when it's coming closer to heavy elections. This is for everyone, but mainly for Councilman Gale. You wanted to kind of get a view of all voter turnouts. So what I did was take the last major elections, state, mayor, council, presidential, BOE. I wanted to give you the total voters who voted. And if you see the fluctuation of the actual votes of how and which election is mainly a more concentrated area or more of a interest to our voting public, this chart can kind of give you a feel of it. Moving forward, our budget comparisons, we are increased by 6.8%, and this reflects the contractual wages increase. And this will also be due to the primary that's being held August 9th and November 8th. Our strategic initiatives, of course, maintaining voter files to ensure accuracy of daily updates, complete record retention, maintenance enrollments via in-person, DMV, online registrations, conduct our annual canvasses, maintain up-to-date equipment and preparations of elections, provide training to all election officials, provide moderator certification, promote voter education and participation, participate in community functions, promote voter registration drives, citywide multimedia plan to promote upcoming elections, as I stated prior. We are using a QR code to let voters know of other polling locations. The registration online and apply for absentee ballots will also be available there. We're also establishing a link that will provide a compiled to-date election result reporting. So the Secretary of State has now on her system all the elections that date back, I don't know, back into the 1900s. We're planning to do the same and have that. We constantly get students who inquire about elections there we go. Elections and how the turnout comes and so forth. Everything will be online so they can look it up. So that's soon to come. I'm just waiting for the approval. This next file is an actual QR code that we have functioning now. It will bring you to the polling location link. So if you take your phone now, currently, you go into it, you press the QR code, you add in your street address, only your street address. You don't have to go into adding your name and so forth, because so many people register differently all the time and they tend to forget. We made it simple, and this is one of the ways that it's going to go out. So you have a picture of your current map that you all approved. The QR code, feel free to go ahead and test it out. It is in our system now. It is functioning. And that is something new that we will be sending out shortly. And we'll be promoting it out to all NRZs. We're going to place it on our media files and so forth. And then again, as always, we just give you a small synap of what we are responsible. And of course, everything is subject to change. So there you go. That's it. And I thank you for your time and can take any questions you have.
Thank you for that detailed, a great presentation, Ms. ROV. So my question is, and I know that you closed the slide where you had the poll workers.
Yeah, I can bring it back up.
Sure, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, so where it's well, non-Hartford resident 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like, you know, I my goal would be that every staff is a Hartford resident, right?
Mine too.
So what does the ROV office do in order to train? Like, do you guys have seminars? Is there a particular time of the year that you train individuals? Do you have a list that you go to? Because one of the complaints that I hear a lot, especially, and I'll speak for the South End of Hartford, is not having enough poll workers that speak Spanish, even though I know that you always try to have someone, but how can we get to a level where we have at least 2 or 3 poll workers that actually speak Spanish? Or do you provide classes twice a year, or does the state do that?
Well, no, it all depends on where our trainings are basically are for all poll workers. Anybody who's working within our polls are trained right before elections. So it's normally about 2 weeks prior to elections.
But there are some of them that have to have a certificate or take extra training, correct?
No, everybody has. What you're talking about as far as the certificates is the actual the moderators and the polling locations. Our moderators can be statewide as long as they're a registered voter within the state. They can be from anywhere within the city, within the state. And I believe that has also changed to be, and Vanessa, you can chime in if you want. I believe it also official checkers or one other position can be outside within the city they serve.
So let's say somebody worked, let's say in the last presidential election, right? Or the last election, and they want to work on the coming up election. They have to take a training again right before.
You take a training every time. Every election is different. Every election is different, so we must do a training all the time. It's mandated that we train all the time. What you do not have to do is be recertified as a moderator if your certification has not expired. But that does not take away from you not showing up to be trained and retrained here and do a refresher course prior to each election.
Okay, so what type of outreach do you do and at what specific time before an election to recruit poll workers?
Believe it or not, we have a continuous word of mouth. And when it comes to election and our poll workers, we're fortunately one of the towns that every time we go to these conferences, we don't really have a big issue in getting poll workers like other towns do. we're getting phone calls now for the August primary.
Okay.
So what we do is place everybody's phone numbers and contact information, and we call each and every one of them, and we let them know, and then we feel them out during the training, whether or not they are suitable for the post.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could close the.
Yeah, I'm going to right now.
Okay. So I'm going to open up the floor to my council colleagues for any questions for our register of voters. Councilman Gale?
Well, thank you for that. This was very educational. The very first thing I did was pulled my phone out. I checked out that QR code and it works. And indeed, I discovered I'm at a new polling place.
There you go.
So I would have walked down to the Methodist church, but now I got to go over to the seminary.
There you go.
So thank you for that. I also checked out the website while you were talking for hartfordvotes.org. And I'm embarrassed to say that I'd never looked at it. I mean, that's really good. And we as council members should publicize that more. I certainly will. I mean, before any election, I'll try to put it out there on my social media, have people go look at it so they can get educated as to, who's running for election. I didn't have a chance to really look at it, but there apparently are videos of the various candidates that were running in the special election at in the 5th district. So, all good stuff. And thank you for the graph on the voter turnout. Greatly appreciated. So
no problem.
Very pleased, very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilman Sanchez?
Good evening, Gigi. Thank you for the
good evening.
For the great presentation. So I'm not sure if I caught anything about this next question. If you did mention it, my apologies.
No
so if I recall, a couple of years ago, we were looking to implement some type of mobile voting. Where are we at with that?
Again, that is something that would have to take place at a state level and changing. Mobile voting, I get the concept, I understand. But it would be, where would we place it? Who would actually be, every ballot is different to each election, and every ballot is catered to a polling location. So if we bring a mobile station somewhere, we would have to make sure that we have all the ballots. It's something that here within the city, I cannot do. It's almost like having a walkable or a mobile EDR. So if you see an EDR during our busy season, that's what a mobile device would look like that you are looking for. Can it happen? Why not? But I can't make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
I wish I could. It really would make it a lot easier for our seniors and so forth, but.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with you. It would be, it would be so effective if we were to take, for example, a school bus or a Connecticut transit bus, pull out all the seats, put in some of those kiosks, and just drive into the deep south, the Parkville area. We have a lot of senior citizens, and then basically just go to this to the senior homes, and let them come downstairs, do their voting. And I just don't see why we're not pushing that concept.
They do have them in different states.
Beneficial.
They do have them in different states, but I want you to know that the custody of the ballots of getting back becomes such a questionable thing, and seeing how 2020 election turned out.
Right. Understood.
I think that could be a big conflict.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? Councilwoman Surgeon.
Good evening, Gigi, and good evening, Vanessa. Thank you very much for your presentation. What I thought it was quite interesting, the graph with the voter turnout. for the presidential election. Just off the top of your head, what was the cost for the presidential election? If you can remember, just round figures. I know it's kind of like, it's almost.
I want to say the presidential election actually was not at a cost to the city at all, because that's what we use the grant for.
No, I'm talking about.
Can't use this one. I'm
talking about the actual poll workers paying people in the polls, the entire cost for the presidential.
Probably about 60, a little over 60, I want to say. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
No, I know.
I would have to look it up.
I understand. It's been over a year now, and I can't remember what I did a year ago. No, because I was just curious, because the town clerk mentioned that they did about 13,000 ABs, and totally the total turnout was about 31,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we did about 18,000 in person. So I was just wondering what the cost was, and in comparison, and then taking a look at the cost and see what his cost was to do 13,000 ABs.
His cost would be totally different from mine, though. I'm a one day person.
Yeah.
Because we're just opening and doing that part of it. The cross off was taken care of by staff here in the office, but maybe 2 others for the cross offs. And we used our head moderators for a lot of the ahead of time cross offs for the ABs. But our cost would be totally lower. It would be more for the day stipend than it would be on an hourly, except for our 2 head moderators.
Yeah. Now the graph was really very eye-opening.
Yes.
When you really take a look at it and see, the actual turnout, between the mayoral election and was at 17. Can I see that far?
Yep.
And what your actual cost was for the Board of Education race, which only, 2,800. Am I reading that correctly? I think about 2,800 people only voted in the Board of Education election.
In the Board of Education, yes.
Yeah, and just an idea.
And how much did that cost?
Yeah, if you can send that to us later, I'm just really curious to see what the Board of Education election cost, in comparison to your cost to the presidential, and then, for
the Board of Education, because it was such a low turnout, and that is one that, along with the coalition, the Hartford Votes, we really pushed a lot of media for that one to see if it would really be an eye opener for people to come out and vote, because I knew that it was going to be low. I didn't expect it to be that low. And unfortunately, we didn't get the turnout that we wanted. But we also went in front of the charter revision and requested that it be moved to a more popular election, such as the mayor and council.
Okay, so your office did testify at the charter revision.
Yes.
And possibly consider moving the Board of Ed due to the, did you have any statistic for the last several Board of Education?
Yes.
Normally about 10 or 12% turnout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this time was, I believe, 4%.
And then your number of voters, there was certainly increase between the presidential. I think it's a presidential. You guys, in comparison over, you would say with the last 10 years, you would increase from, I think it's from the state when it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was. I have to reopen it in order to.
Now I'm taking a look at it from the presentation. So you had about 47,000.
47,000.
Yeah, last state election 4 years ago. And now you're up to about 59,000, say close to 60,000 voters.
Yes, and as you know, it fluctuates on a daily basis.
Pardon?
It fluctuates. The voters' registration fluctuates on a daily basis. So it changes on a daily basis.
Yeah.
We add a couple and lose a couple.
Yeah. Now you talked about there is a new map because of redistricting, and what are the your goals and your their mission to actually, getting Councilman Gale just discovered he's a new voter. He's got a new polling place.
Correct.
So what are your goals and to try to get these 59,852? I'm going to take off one from Councilman Gale. Well, he knows now. So you only need to send out 59,852 notification
Right.
for the new change of polling place. What are we doing? What are we going to be doing with that?
So what's going to happen is we're going to be holding a media campaign come the end of June, once we're done and over with the petition process, because we have until the end of June to do the petition process. Once that happens, come July, that will give us the time to do all the mailings. So right now, I'm currently working with doing the process of mailing out to each individual household their new voting location. It will have the QR code on there so people can look. The QR code is not fully completed yet. What's going to have attached to that also will be the Google map. So if you did move in, for example, Councilman Gale didn't know where his new voting location was located, he can put into the Google map, just push the button and it'll lead him directly to those directions. So people won't get lost in trying to find location of where their new polling locations will be. Besides the mass mailing that we're going to do, like I said, will be media based. We're putting it out in all the outlets as much as possible, trying to outreach radio stations. My plan is I've already outreached to several months ago to let folks know that Miss Miriam Griffin, the chair of the NRC, that this will be happening. And as soon as it does happen and it's all completed and said, done, deal, I will be sending her out a package to all the NRCs, being able to meet with all the NRCs via Zoom or in person, whichever way it is. Excuse me. I got a cold from Saturday.
Me too.
That will alleviate some awareness. I'm also putting it in newspapers and so forth, local newspapers, free newspapers. I use the Hartford News a lot, so definitely.
So did you put in your budget any sort of marketing campaign?
I did put in for the budget and the marketing campaign. What I put in 2 business cases. One would be for the August primary, and one would be for the November. The November one I really want to concentrate on. But I did place in request monies for that.
So are you hiring a consultant, a company?
I am in the process of trying to hire a consultant company right now.
Okay.
I already got the proposal. I'm just waiting for some final details of what I want to see actually happen out there.
Great. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Gigi. Good presentation. I love the voter turnout graph. That was awesome.
Thank you.
My co-chair, Majority Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Ms. Feliciano, thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I'm interested to understand more of the mechanics of the office so since we now have a Democratic and a Republican registrar, can you just explain to us how does, or our Republican registrar can chime in as well, how does both sides work together to get the information out to the public regarding these various campaigns, educating our residents and voters, and as well as how does both sides work together, regardless of political affiliation, because our whole goal is to increase voter turnout on both sides of the aisle. How does both the Republican and Democratic registrar work together with the staff to get all the information disseminated so that we can increase turnout? And also too, I know the other educational piece regarding those little postcards that people like to throw out. How do we get to educate our voters as to they need to fill those out to return them back so that their names won't get kicked off the list?
Well, like Gigi would say, we've always gave the voters information over the phone. When we get phone calls, we answer all of their questions about our canvas cards, letting them know that we just got to make sure that they still live at their address, their voting address. And we've always been able to work together. It's a give and take. We're both impartial here in the office. So is our staff. We all work together. It's a lot of work for us because we're really short-staffed, but we continue to work together in order to accomplish our goals.
Thank you for that. Now, I know the Democratic registrar has a deputy. Do you have a deputy?
Not at the moment, sir.
So how does that impact your budget and your overall work regarding the office?
Well, we have office staff here also. And Gigi's deputy, Ms. Kathy Brooks, has always been very helpful.
Do you plan on hiring a deputy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As soon as possible.
So you did put that into your budget?
Oh, yeah, that's in the budget.
What about when, because I know a lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of other departments are short-staffed. So to make sure that you all are just about fully functional, do you have an ETA as to when you're looking to bring a deputy on board?
As soon as possible. I've been looking at several candidates, trying to make a decision. So as soon as I make the decision, there will be somebody hired.
And what's that salary composition for deputy?
No. That I quite don't remember right now, but 45, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback off Councilman Clark's question to the Republican Register. When you say you're short staff, how short staff are you, or are you just referring to your deputy?
No, I'm not referring to our deputy. I'm referring to our general office staff because they have a lot of work they do every day. And Gigi, Miss Kathy, and I try to chime in and try to get all of this work done. But when I first started here as just an office worker,
How long ago was that?
Wow. That was years ago. I think 2008, 2010.
Okay.
We had so much more staff here. And things would get done faster because everybody was allocated whatever work we needed done as soon as possible.
Okay. So now I'm gonna refer over to our Register of Voters, Mrs. Feliciano. How short staff are you in your department right now?
Currently, what we are vacant with is Ms. Garay's deputy.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, her former deputy is our 90-day temp currently taking over right now. So technically, we do not have an empty space in our general clerk office because we have a 90-day temp taking that over right now. And we will continue with that temp during this period of petitions and so forth. We have to move forward. So I don't see her, that's a request of keeping her a little longer. I just started the process with HR and bringing the position or the vacant position to PRC, and then we have to wait for approval. For the general clerk, I cannot speak on behalf of Ms. Garay Jackson in regards to her deputy. That is her on that end.
So if you extend your 90-day temp and you said you have one more vacant, then your department will be full to capacity, staffing wise.
Well, we're full to capacity to what the city says we're full to capacity. Would I like to see a couple of more folks? Definitely. But unfortunately, the budget does not allow us to fulfill those positions as easily as other departments.
And so did you put in a business case or you just didn't include it in your budget?
What I put in right now during the process of, we fill in our business cases back in January.
Okay.
So back in January, I had a full staff. Since then, I do not have a full staff, but I filled it with the temporary person. So I'm balanced out. Just because we're small does not mean that our girls do not, our ladies, our staff here does not work hard. We're here early in the morning, and if I request them to stay later, they're here later. They are the ones that process the over 64,000 canvas cards and within. So you're looking at the girls in the front. You're also looking at the executive assistant who also participates with office duties, just like everyone else. And we all share the responsibilities of what comes in. There was a smart woman that once told me, even if you have to be here on a Saturday or Sunday, you better believe your butt has to be here on a Saturday or Sunday. And that was over some Starbucks coffee. We won't mention any names. But I knew coming in that that's what it would take. So sometimes people will see me here till late evenings, and it is what it is. I have certain staff that will come in bright and early as 5:30 in the morning if need be. So we have that dedication. The job, our ROV works on a timeline. We work on a calendar, and that calendar has to be met. So regardless of who's here and who's not here, the job has to get done. And if that means me standing here by myself, that means me standing here by myself.
Thank you. And doesn't that Starbucks coffee give that person away?
Great advice.
Are there any other comments or questions for the Register of Voters? Great. There being none, thank you so much for your presentation. We enjoyed it a lot, and I'm gonna do like Councilman Gail said, to go check out that website and that QR code.
It will be updated soon.
It works. I tried it already.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. So with that said, this Operations Management Budget and Government Accountability meeting is recessed until tomorrow, Thursday, May 12th. We will hear budget presentations from Corporation Counsel, Office of the Chief Operating Officer, and Office of the Mayor. With that said, to our public, good night. Everyone stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.